Part 1. Straight Facts. My name is Martha Green. I'm 72, and I live in Pecan Ridge, Texas. I'll keep it clean and exact. People, places, dates. I was born outside Redfield, Missouri, 1 mile past the silo, and 2 bends off County Road 8. Father: Calvin Green. Farmhand. Mother: Darla. 3 rooms, pump well, kerosene lamp, winter drafts that whistled under the door. At 9, wife training started. Windows latched, lamp turned low, my mother by the dresser saying, "Do what your father says." I won't detail it. It was criminal, and it happened weekly. On the 4th of July, when I was 15, I met a boy from Jefferson City. Evan Brooks. He bought saltwater taffy, made a sorry joke about fireworks, and asked my name. A week later, he came proper, said he hauled part-time for Sau, Ozark Freight Isle, and rented a room at Mrs. Whitaker's. Calvin saw the boots, the paycheck stub, said, "You look steady," then turned to me, "Your lessons continue." After that, everything accelerated. A month before any wedding talk, the lessons doubled, Tuesdays and Thursdays. One dusk, Evan arrived early without warning. I was in my parents' bedroom, bed tight with a white coverlet. Tap at the window. Evan's face. I lifted the latch. He stepped in just as my parents entered. Calvin loosened his belt. "Final rehearsal," he said. Evan planted himself between us. "I heard you in the hall," he told my father. "This isn't upbringing." Calvin swung. Evan slipped the punch and drove him into the door frame. Lamp died. Mother screamed. We slid past in the dark, through the kitchen, into the yard. Behind the woodpile stood a roan mare. Evan threw a leg over, hauled me up, and we cut for the road. 5 minutes later, we were pounding. Mrs. Whitaker's back stoop. She opened, took one look, and said, "You've got 10 minutes at most." Sheriff reads everyone's mail around here. Cut behind my garden to the stock lot. Find a pea green truck with Aisha. Ozark. Stenciled crooked. My nephew, Cole, is driving. She shoved a plain dress into my hands. I ditched the nightgown, tied my hair, and we ran lane to lane. At the lot, Cole was loading crates. "Aunt Whitaker?" Evan asked. Cole jerked his chin. "In the bed, both of you. I'm bound for Springfield. Switch to the night bus there. Don't look out." We climbed in. As the gate slammed, I saw my father and a deputy break through the stalls. Cole floored it. Dust boiled. Route 65. Unspooled under us while the crates hammered and my heart tried to match the wheels. Springfield bus station, midnight. Evan bought 2 tickets to Wichita. With what he had, $34 and a freight badge. We took turns sleeping on benches. By morning, we were in a city that didn't know our names. Evan grabbed a dock shift on Santa Fe Street. I sorted hotel linens off a steam press. We rented a studio behind a pawn shop. A foreman named Marcus Hale looked us over and said, "You're not safe under those names." That night he walked Evan to a print shop and came back with a union card for Mashi. Nate Browning. He handed me a stitched apron. M. Browning. "Lose the other papers," he said. "Keep dates." 2 months later, we married at the Sedgwick County Courthouse. Witnesses: Marcus and Olivia Hale. I became Martha Browning. No flowers, no cake. Evan brought 2 sodas and a rye loaf. "Here's our toast," he said. We kept moving. Kansas to Oklahoma City. Night stockyards for him. Jacket plant seam lines for me. A year in, we crossed to Amarillo. A cannery needed packers, and a feedlot needed early drivers. We took both, saved for a used Ford and a second-hand Singer, paid cash, kept off lists, never posted a number. The letter found us in 70. Anyway, postmark, Redfield. 2 lines from Mrs. Whitaker. Calvin Green is dead. Called the preacher before he went and said, "Forgive me. Darla is staying with the Masons." I took the Greyhound alone. Redfield hadn't changed. Same diner, same men spitting tobacco at the curb. At the Masons' place, my mother was thin as kindling. She said, "I was afraid. You were right to go." She passed me a tin, a tarnished locket and a folded sheet listing days and lamp notes in her hand. Tuesdays, Thursdays, kerosene half full, wick trimmed. Next morning I stood at 2 stones, said nothing, and got back on the bus. We chose Texas R for the next chapter. Pecan Ridge had 3 things we needed: a highway spur, a quiet industrial park, and neighbors who left you alone if you worked. Evan earned his CDL. I opened a hemming table in the carport, safety vests, school curtains, flag edges for the gym. 1 truck became 2. Browning Hall stuck to farm gear and church chairs, loads that didn't ask questions at night. The real turn came from a battered notebook I'd kept since Wichita. Dates, names, scenes, no adjectives. I photocopied 20 pages and mailed them to Deputy Arlen Cook in Polk County, Arkansas, a contact from Marcus's cousin. Cook looped an assistant DA. Their note back: most counts are time-barred. Conspiracy, aiding, obstruction. Those breathe longer. They asked who near Redfield had known the lessons. I sent 2 farm addresses and the name of Miss Carter, a teacher. Cook pulled the school's old binder and found 3 misplaced notes: nurse visits, unexplained marks, child fearful, unsigned. The DA reopened them as exhibits. Next spring, I returned to Missouri with 2 investigators. The current owner let us in. The bedroom ceiling still showed a rough patch. They pried it open and pulled a cigar tin, a handwritten house rules list, 2 undeveloped film rolls, and Darla's note with lesson times and grocery tallies. Everything bagged, logged, sealed. Chain of custody, clean. No TV cameras. You can't sentence a dead man. But 3 living men stood before a judge in a quiet room: a neighbor pastor who'd counseled obedience and failed to report, and 2 mentors from nearby farms. They got bans from youth work, fines, probation. The judge put 1 line on the record: these practices are violence. That was the point. Not in my head, in the books. Evan died how he wanted, fast, in our shop. I sold 1 tractor and handed the other to our boy, Dean. He's driven back roads since 14. Our girl, Nora, is a nurse. On Saturdays, we set up at the Grange Hall. She runs pressure cuffs. I hem flags. I teach 1 class at the library. Paper beats story. We stamp the date, write who was there, log the minute, and keep 3 copies. Home, friend, off-site. Kids smirk until a boss forgets a promise and the log fixes it. Loose ends. Cole Whitaker runs a tire shop now. I framed his first crooked Ozarks stencil in my laundry room. Marcus's print shop keeps a sheet titled Hot Words to Flag. For copy centers: preparation, obedience circle, modesty training, parental rights without legal footer. 3 hits on a flyer? They call the clerk. 1 call stops more than a sermon. The locket is with my granddaughter. June. I told her, metal is metal. Your real inheritance is a notebook, a camera, and a calendar. You want romance. You won't find it here. You'll find a route map and the hands that pulled me along it. Mrs. Whitaker, Backgate, Cole, Green Truck, Marcus, New Papers, Steady Work, Deputy Cook, Chain of Custody, the Judge. One sentence that stuck. I opened a window, climbed into a crate bed, changed my name, saved the paper, mailed it to someone with a badge, and went back to work. If you need an ending, take this. Open the window, reach the truck, use the alias, keep the record, hand it off, keep moving. Run it with your roads and your names. Part 2. The Wichita, Texas Run Book, I Don't Traffic in Speeches. Here's the next block of facts, fast and straight. Wichita, 1966-67. Marcus Hale walked Evan into Kaufman Print. Back door, midnight. The pressman, Eddie Voss. Set lead for Nate Browning, union stamp and all. I learned the layout. Platen, chase, coin key. If you ever need a clean card, you mind the kerning and the ink bleed. Eddie took rye instead of cash. Rule 1 from those nights. Pay in something that doesn't leave a receipt. We rented over Harcourt Pawn. On Santa Fe, the owner. Mr. Harcourt, let me use his dark room when I close the linen shift. I learned trays, stop bath, fixer, squeegee. That skill mattered later. Oklahoma City, 1968. Evan hauled night cattle at the stockyards. I stitched sleeves at Frontier Jacket, Row F, Machine 12. The forewoman, Mrs. Boughton, taught me speed hems with a chalk string and how to hide a needle in the seam allowance if a floor man got handsy. She handed me a spiral pad and said, "Write the hour, not the feeling." So I did. Amarillo, 1969. We bought a She 55 Ford Custom Line from Montray's Wreckers for $290 cash. Ray threw in a cracked CB. Evan fixed the squelch with a pencil eraser. Channel 12 turned into our early warning. Couple of ranchers on that band heard last names we avoided. The Letter, 1970. Mrs. Whitaker's 2 sentences. Redfield. I went alone. At the Masons, Darla gave me that tin. Inside the folded paper, precise ticks. T855 trim wick, Teach 903 latch window, 910, obedience. Her hand, not mine. I didn't argue. I bagged it in butcher paper and walked out. Pecan Ridge, 1971. Texas Fit. Evan passed the CDL at District 14 Motor Saim. In Lufkin. Examiner. Roy Blanchard. 2 months later, we had a dually painted flat white to look invisible. I set a hemming table under the carport. Church bunting in spring, pep rally flags in fall, safety vest re-edges year-round, cash tin under the singer, ledger on the shelf. Now the turn. I pulled the Wichita notebook and typed it clean at Pecan Ridge Library. Royal typewriter, crooked E. I mailed 20 pages to Deputy Arlen Cook, Polk County, Arkansas. He wrote back, time barred on core acts, aiding and obstruction. Have legs. He asked for corroboration. I sent 2 farm names and Miss Carter, my old school teacher. Cook dug the school archive. He found 3 nurse slips stamped received and filed nowhere. He looped 8 a.m. Keener. Keener wanted chain of custody, so in spring 72, we drove to Missouri. Green Place, April 72. New owner. Mr. Bixby gave consent. Bedroom ceiling, north corner. Rough patch. Investigator. Terry Field. Popped the lath, pulled a cigar tin. Inside, rule list. No talking, eyes down, lamp low. 2. Ansco rolls. Darla's grocery tallies with lesson times in the margins. Field sealed it in a brown evidence sack. I signed as finder. That signature mattered. Back in Texas, I asked Mr. Harcourt to let me use the darkroom again. He shook his head. Evidence stays sealed. Right. We shipped the rolls to Keener's lab. Cook's next letter. Rolls show a lamp, a belt, a shadow that is not a child's. Date stamps match your mother's notes. That put air under it. Not in my head. On paper. Quiet courtroom, October 72. No cameras. 3 men stood there. Pastor Lionel Greeley. Counseled obedience, never reported. Earl Madding. And Hoke Jensen. Called themselves uncles, stood guard outside rooms. Charges: failure to report, conspiracy. Sentences: fines, probation, permanent bans from youth work. The judge, Leland Fisk, gave the line that mattered. These practices are violence. Clerk typed it, stamped it, filed it. That's where I needed it. On the record. Revenge, if you want the word, looks like this. A stamped page. Build phase, 1973-77. Evan expanded to 2 tractors. Browning Halse. Stayed clean. Farm implements, folding chairs, church risers, school riser legs. We never moved anything that made you lie if a deputy asked. Nora was born 73, Dean 75. We slept light and kept the CB live. I set up a side thing at the library called Blue Binder. Contents: incident log, pre-hole punched, timestamp boxes. 2 disposable cameras, with date stamps. Pre-addressed envelopes. To a county ADA, a state hotline, and 1 cousin in another county. A card of hot words. Clerk's flag at copy shops. Preparation, modesty training, obedience circle, chastening seminar, parental rights, with no statute. Librarian C. Ruth Pennington has signed off. Call it a civics kit. We printed 50. Within a month, 3 landed in lockers I never saw. Navarro County, 1978. A flyer hit Ruth's desk. Family order, a Saturday course. It tripped 4 hot words. I drove the custom line saying, down and sat in back with a thermos like any church lady. Speaker, Reverend Dale Corcoran. Slick hair, gold pin. He hit his talking points. Discipline, privacy. Courts can't tell you. I counted heads, wrote plate numbers at lunch, bought a booklet, and left. Next morning I walked the booklet to City Clerk Ada Monroe. Ada called Code Enforcement. Corcoran had no assembly permit, no fire watch, no child safety plan. The city shut him down on paper that afternoon. No shouting, just a notice on the door. That's how you bend iron. At the hinge. The film rolls echo, 1979. Reporter San, Nina Calder. At the Jefferson Ledger called, off the record, did a woman named Darla keep time notes? I said, ask the clerk in Polk County for case notes under Fisk, Oct 72. She did. Her piece never used my name. It did print the judge's sentence and the phrase, lamp and ledger. After that, copy centers across 3 counties began phoning Ada when obedience seminars rolled in. We weren't loud. We were everywhere. House calls, 1980s. Nora started nursing. I hemmed flags in Grange halls while she ran blood pressures. Women pressed envelopes into my hand. Dates, codes, initials. I stamped them received and mailed 2 copies out, 1 to a friend in another town, 1 to a P.O. box under the name C. Whitaker. Cole used that box to hand materials to a deputy without my return address ever appearing. Clean handoffs, make long lives. 1 sting, clean. In Gaines County, 84, a teacher, Mr. Lou Ortiz, whispered that a modesty circle met Thursdays in a machine shed. I drove a folding ladder delivery to that very farm as Browning Hall. 2 minutes, clipboard, smile, plate numbers. That night, deputy. Arlen Cook, different county, same man on loan, Sat on the road with a trooper. They logged 16 cars, wrote up the shed for code violations, and served a warrant for materials. The shed owner signed a consent to search faster than he could think. Inside, charts, rules, and 3 lists of girls' names. Those lists moved penalties from gossip to statute. What didn't happen? I didn't yell at my mother. I didn't chase ghosts. I mailed copies, kept the engines running, and watched permit boards. That's how you make a long revenge. You outlast and you outfile. People who mattered you haven't met yet. Tito Ramirez, bus mechanic in Wichita, who taught Evan to listen for a bad wheel bearing and for a lie at a loading dock. Jenny March, switchboard at the Sedgwick Courthouse, who told me which clerk stamped the right way. Sergeant May Duval, DPS. We never met, but her name on a letterhead froze 3 seminars from renting school gyms. Why I'm telling this chunk now? You asked for motion, not tears. Motion is this. Learn whose stamp counts. What language triggers a clerk? Which violations are simple to prove? Fire exits shut more obedience circles than sermons do. You want a takeaway from part 2? Add these to the route map. Know a clerk by first name. Carry a camera with a date stamp. Count plates. File on the easy code first. Permits, occupancy, fire. Let the felony arrive in the mailbox of a prosecutor with your chain of custody already stapled. Next time, I'll lay out the 3 calls that built our business clean and kept our names off the wrong lists, and how a single misprint almost burned it all down. Part 3, 3 calls that built the business and 1 typo that almost killed it. You wanted motion, so here's the machinery. Call 1, the permit clerk. 1979, Pecan Ridge expanding its industrial park. I wanted legal cover for She Browning Hall suit to stage overnight. I phoned She City Permits and asked for whoever stamped temporary use. Got Clerk Ada Monroe, same one who iced the family order crowd. I didn't ask favors. I asked for the form number. She said, TU-17 with a fire lane map and a contact who answers at 2 a.m. I faxed the map, listed our shop landline and Roy Blanchard at DPS's secondary, and dropped off a laminated yard layout. Result: a 1-year standing permit with renewals by postcard. Every time a deputy tapped our gate after midnight, the paper already matched the ground. Call 2, the way station sergeant. 1980, we were scaling light but hitting checkpoints a lot. I rang the District 2 way station and asked for the sergeant on training. Sergeant May Duval picked up. I said, "Tell me what you'd fail on a first pass, and I'll fix it tonight." She faxed an inspection sheet with 3 red circles, reflector tape, logbook legibility, fire extinguisher date. Evan and I ran to Tractor Supply, taped the rails full length, swapped 2 expired cans, and I typed a clean log grid we could read in the rain. Next week, May ran our unit through a demo and said to the rookies, "This is what compliance looks like." After that, we got waved through more than we got waved over. Call 3, the insurance adjuster. 1981, church risers slid, and a deacon tried to gift us the blame. I phoned our carrier and asked for field inspection. Before anyone lawyered up, adjuster Paul Crenshaw arrived with a plumb bob and camera. I walked him through belts, straps, friction mats, and a photo I'd snapped at loading. Risers were banded, straps cross-checked. Deacon's crew cut the bands early. Paul filed, operator loaded, consignee unbanded, and mailed the church a neat letter. Claim denied. Shipper released bans. We kept our rate and, more important, our name. Those 3 calls did more than grease wheels. They made us predictable on paper. Predictable wins. Now the problem you asked about, the misprint. The typo. 1 letter, big fire. 1982, Amarillo Return Hall, pallets of folding tables bound for a school gym. Bill of lading came from the vendor's green bar printer. M. Browning, aka M. Brownin. 1 missing G put us a keystroke from for Browning, green. In the vendor's old Rolodex, that index still held my Black Hills trail of names. At the Ma Gaines checkpoint, a junior trooper keyed Brownin and got a no-match flag, then ran to Browning and hit an ancient vendor list with the Evan Brooks attached. Wrong database, right alarm. He pulled us in hard. What I did, step by step. 1. Freeze the scene. Engine off, hands visible, window down. 2. Ask for the code. Trooper, what mismatch are you seeing? He read the spelling. 3. Produce the chain. I handed him our SI permit, TU-17, insurance, CDL, and 3 SI affidavits. I'd pre-typed months earlier for bad paperwork days. Name variant statement, misspellings on vendor docs, alias disclosure, legal married name versus maiden, carrier identity statement, US.TXDMV, plate, VN. Each had blanks for date, unit, and officer badge. I filled them on the hood. 4. Call the sergeant you already know. I asked the trooper to ring Sau, Hargant Duval. He did, reluctantly. She said, check Vine to DUT to plate. If those align and the paperwork stamped TU-17, let them roll. 5. Fix the source. At the school, we refused to sign the green bar bill. I wrote, refused for misspelling, see corrected BOL, printed a clean, corrected ball from our cab's typewriter, and had the receiving secretary countersign. Then I mailed a copy to our carrier and stapled the typo to a vendor error file. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived, vendor apology, updated vendor master, and a $50 fuel card. Small money, big clean record. The trooper who stopped us, he now waved at our cab. How we hardwired that lesson. I added a name number cross-check. Stripped to every clipboard. Bowel name, our cab decal, our .Y insurance cert, permit ID. A driver initials each line before moving an inch. I made a red stamp. Misspelling, corrected bowl attached. If any shipper's green bar hiccuped, we stapled the corrected page on top before it left their dock. Evan taped a aphonetic card to the visor. Browning with a G green with an E. Evan, not Kevin. Sounds dumb until you're shouting over diesel at 2 a.m. One more near miss that turned into a rule. 1983, we took a school gym bleacher machi job. Custodian asked if we'd leave the forklift keys for Saturday men. I said no. He frowned. On Monday, risk management called. Saturday men tipped a stack and wanted to spread blame. Our load sheet had check marks for keys removed, forks lowered, propane valve shut, with custodian's signature and time. The claim died in under 6 minutes. I added this hand back line. Who received the keys, where they went, and a phone extension. Paper beat story. Again. Family thread. Quick. Dean learned the visor card and ran plates to clean paper without me reminding. Nora set a Cobra Obipi booth at Friday night games and taught me to track cuffs and cuffs cleaning logs like we track straps. Evan kept the radios sane, resistors and fuses in a cigar box labeled spares. and a second box labeled Bad Ideas. Things folks asked us to haul that we wouldn't touch. People who carried weight in this chapter. Ada Monroe, who told me which box to tick so the night shift wouldn't knock us for staging. Sarnt May Duval, whose one sentence over a radio cleared a jam a lawyer might have milked. Paul Crenshaw, who measured instead of guessing and wrote what happened, not what someone wished. If you're building your own version, steal these 5. 1. Learn the Tamarack form number before the favor. 2. Ask an enforcer. What fails first? Then fix it. 3. Keep pre-typed affidavits. For name errors, alias disclosure, and identity linkage. 4. Stamp and staple corrected bills. At the dock, not at the checkpoint. 5. Make friends with the person who assign. Answers at 2 a.m. Next piece, I'll run you through the Navarro Spiral, how a school gym contract exposed a county procurement racket, and why one custodian's time card cracked it open without me ever raising my voice. Моя помилка. Ми перескочили нумерацію. Ось пропущена частина. Jar Part 4, The Ceiling Tin. I Keep It Straight. Year, 1972. Place, Redfield, Missouri. People me, Deputy Arlen Cook, Polk County, ADA Ruth Ellison, and property owner number 2, Mr. Clyde Roper, who'd bought the green place at auction. Cook called first. Bring the notebook, Mrs. Browning. We'll work off your dates. I packed copies only. Original stayed in Pecan Ridge with Nora. We met at the Redfield Diner, 7:10 a.m. Ruth slid a form across the table. Owner consent, limited search, bedroom and crawl voids. I signed as witness. Clyde signed as owner. Cook set a chain of custody envelope on the counter like a lunch pail. We drove to the farm. Same cottonwoods. Same sway in the porch. I didn't walk memories. I walked measurements. 11 steps from the hall to the parents' room, 3 boards that squeaked, patch in the ceiling I'd logged back in 60. Oval plaster, 2 nail heads visible. Cook tapped the oval, then used a bar. Plaster gave. A small cigar tin dropped onto a blanket he'd spread. He held up his hand so the camera saw empty palms, then bagged it. Label reading, Greenhouse, Ceiling Void, BR1, 0942. Ruth photographed each surface, bed frame, lamp base, window latch. No commentary. I stood by the door frame and read my line from the notebook. 2s, 3s, lamp turned low, wick trimmed. Cook asked, "Any place else?" "Closet top shelf," I said. He pulled the shelf board. Nothing. He marked it anyway. Back at the cruiser, we opened the tin under camera. Contents: a house rules sheet in my mother's slanted hand. Silence after supper. Obey father. 2 8mm film rolls stamped Drug Mart, Redfield. A folded scrap with times and grocery tallies. 2s 8:30 beans, Wick 1-2. Ruth didn't exhale. She said only, Bag A, Bag B, Bag C. Cook sealed them, logged minute and location. Next stop, First Calvary Church. We weren't there to pray. The ledger room smelled like paste. Ruth had a subpoena. The clerk fetched counseling notes. One line in the pastor's tidy script. D. Green seeks guidance. Husband insists on strict obedience for daughter. Advised prayer and marital unity. Ruth flagged it. School came next. Miss Carter, retired now, met us in the nurse's office. We pulled the 1960-62 binder. 3 slips sat misfiled behind cafeteria invoices. Child fearful, arm bruising, inconsistent W fall. Strong kerosene odor in hair on Thursdays. Student asks if lamps can make you sleepy. No signatures, just the nurse's initials. LC. Ruth smiled for the first time. Lost and found. By noon, Cook had 3 sworn statements lined up. Miss Carter, the nurse, Lena Crow, and Mrs. Alden from across the lane, who'd written a note years back about evening drills and never mailed it. We swore them before a notary at the courthouse. Phrases I used to hear in whispers got written down with dates, then stamped. Ruth filed 2 charges the statute still allowed: failure to report by a mandated reporter, the old pastor still living, and conspiracy aid by 2 mentors who'd run discipline circles on neighboring farms. Nothing cinematic, just papers, signatures, docket numbers. Arraignment day, small courtroom, no cameras. I sat second row with Cook. The pastor came in with a lawyer and a pinched look, pleaded no contest to the misdemeanor. The judge barred him from youth work and fined him. The 2 mentors tried to bluff. Tradition, parental rights, church teaching, until Ruth rolled the exhibits: film stills of the bedroom lamp and belt, the rules sheet, the nurse slips, and Mrs. Alden's unsent letter. They took pleas, probation, fines, permanent bans. Then the line I wanted on paper happened. Judge Myers leaned into the mic. For avoidance of doubt, these practices are violence, not training. The court so finds. Clerk typed it while he spoke. That sentence didn't fix a soul, but it anchored every future page. We boxed the tin and mailed certified copies to 3 places: Ruth's office file, Cook's evidence locker, and ADA backup in Little Rock, Marcus's cousin's idea. Always 2 jurisdictions when you can. I took photocopies of the non-sensitive pages for my class that didn't exist yet. We drove once more to the farm, purely administrative. Clyde wanted to repaint the room and asked if we had further holds. Cook cleared him. "You're good." I walked out last, closed the door, and clicked the latch once, habit, then left it open. No ceremony. On the way back, Cook said, "You kept dates. That's why this moved." I answered, "Dates and witnesses. Feelings don't swear oaths." He laughed once, short. "Put that on a poster." Pecan Ridge that night. Evan at the shop, grease on his hands, asked only, "Did you get what you needed?" I set the receipt stack on the counter. "We got the sentence." He nodded, wiped his palms, and sliced 2 pieces off a peach pie the dispatcher had dropped by. We ate standing up between a pallet jack and a coil of ratchet straps. Loose edges tied that week. Ruth sent certified letters to 3 counties flagging flyers that used code phrases: obedience circle, modesty training. City clerks added a reporting line. Miss Carter donated her nurse binder copies to the state school archive under mandatory reporting: historical failures. I logged the accession number in my notebook. Mrs. Alden finally mailed her letter, addressed to herself. Postmark gave it weight. She framed the envelope above her stove with a note: "Next time, send it on day 1. That's the part folks think is thunder. It wasn't. It was paperwork and boots. With the judge's sentence in the record, we were set for what came after, building the habit so kids didn't need a badge to be believed. Next up would be the rollout in Texas. The notebook turned into a system. The class, the copy center's on alert. But that's part 5 you've already got. Sharv part 5, Paper Beat Story, Texas Build Out, Pecan Ridge, Texas, 1973 and 1976. I turned the notebook into a system. Start point, the library basement. Head librarian, Mrs. Alma Vick. Let me book Saturday mornings if I kept it neat and finished by noon. I called the class Paper Beat Story. No speeches, tools only. Kit list. pocket calendar, 2 cheap pens, blue-black, 3-part carbon forms I had printed at Leland Print, a disposable camera, a manila envelope stamped Copy A, Home, Copy B, Alley, Copy C, Offsite. Lesson 1. Stamp the moment. Write date, exact time, full names, where your feet are. Lesson 2. Who else is in the room? Spellings, phones, license plates if there's a car. Lesson 3. Preserve. No erasing. Line through mistakes. Initial. Lesson 4. Duplicate, then store each copy in a different place. I recruited allies. Leland Print, owner Ruthie Leland, kept a buzzword card taped beside the press. Preparation, obedience circle, modesty training, parental rights, no legal footer, purity contract. 3 hits on 1 flyer. Call the city clerk. Clerk logged calls on a green sheet and sent me weekly totals. We weren't censors. We were early warning. Schools. Principal Harlan Cho at Pecan Ridge High let me train the nurse and counselor. We made a 1-page report in 90 seconds. 1. Child's words in quotes. 2. Visible marks description. 3. Date, time, room. 4. Who you phoned. No adjectives. No theories. Churches were touchier. I didn't argue doctrine. I offered liability relief. Mandatory reporting quick sheet saves pastors from court. Pastor Mel Young took it. Others followed after they saw his insurance premium drop. First field test, September 73. A flyer showed up at Barrel Creek Laundromat. Mother's Modesty Circle, Tuesdays, after dusk. 3 buzzwords. Leland called. I pulled the class roster and divided tasks. Step chain. Leah from the bakery photographed the flyer in place. I filed a clerk notice, timestamp 10:14 a.m. Alma Vick checked permits. None filed for group use at the listed center. Deputy Lyle Pena ran a quiet drive-by the next Tuesday. At 8:07 p.m. he radioed. Minivan parade, back door only, curtains drawn. We didn't kick doors. We posted signs. I walked in at 8:20 with 2 binders and introduced myself like a health inspector. Simple compliance check, ladies. Host tried bluster. I kept to paperwork. Event permit, safety officer, mandatory reporter on site. She had none. I handed the city's form packet and read the line that matters. No minor-focused instruction without a licensed adult present and an open-door policy. Meeting dissolved. No argument. The rules did the work. Second test. January 74. A traveling character seminar booked the Grange Hall using a dummy name. Our printer flagged the phrase, obedience ladder. I reserved 2 front-row seats under my maiden name. Nora came in her student scrubs. We carried the kit. When the speaker pitched correction rooms, we wrote it verbatim, stamped the time, and photographed the slide. 10 minutes later, the Grange manager, already briefed, cut the power under the safety clause. Refund slips were printed before the lights came back. We built a response ladder for kids. Level 0, write and photograph. Level 1, tell 1 adult who will sign the page. Level 2, mail copy C to a P.O. box outside the county. Level 3, call our list. Nurse, counselor, deputy. Every step generated paper that outran gossip. By summer 74, the class outgrew the basement. We moved to the firehouse bay on loan from Chief Ramos. He liked that our forms mirrored incident reports. We added a chain of custody light, zip bag, index, initials across the seal. Teens loved the ritual. It felt like running a small lab. We ran drills. I staged a fake flyer at the feed store. Kids had to find it, document it, and trigger the clerk workflow inside 20 minutes. Fastest team, 3 sophomores, did it in 14. I hired them Saturdays to assemble kits. We also hardened copy centers. Marcus's cousin in Little Rock shipped us a quiet shelf, pre-boxed evidence bags, date stamps, and a laminated card. If you see 3 code words, print 2 extra sets and staple this card on top. No arguments with customers, just standard practice. Fall 75 brought our first courtroom use of the kit. A janitor at the community center heard discipline night behind the gym door and used his Polaroid. He called me. I called Lyle. Lyle called the DA. In the hearing, defense tried fog. Misunderstood parenting class. The judge looked at our stack. Time-stamped photos, permits missing, speaker notes, the janitor's signed page, and said, "You can't fog a clock." Case closed with fines and a ban. We kept scaling. Evan turned the side office at the yard into a quick copy room. Truckers came for way slips and left with a pocket calendar. We printed the rule on the back. Write it, date it, get a witness, make 3. The dispatcher, Ruth Ann, stamped every outgoing bill of lading with the same line. Repetition does what speeches don't. Not all wins were loud. Sometimes the printer's quiet call was enough. A pastor brought in a draft with 2 flagged phrases. Ruthie slid him our liability sheet. Next Sunday, his bulletin read, "Family night, open doors, mandatory reporter present." Same crowd, safer frame. We met resistance twice. Once, a self-styled elder told me I was bringing the government into homes. I answered with 6 words. This is about records, not sermons. He didn't like it. He complied anyway because the Grange required the form. The other time, a school board member balked at nurses judging families. I brought the 90-second sheet and a stopwatch to the meeting. Lena Crow demonstrated. 54 seconds. The board voted unanimous. By 76, we had a map. Pecan Ridge, Barrel Creek, Willow Bend, Alton. 4 libraries, 2 print shops, 1 clinic, 1 firehouse, and the Grange running the same kit. We kept a single index box at my place. Alphabet tabs, nothing fancy. If a kid moved towns, their copy C followed them sealed. 2 add-ons rounded the system. 1 photo room, a spare closet at the library with a plain backdrop and a tape measure on the wall. If someone needed to document marks, they could do it without chatter. 3 photos, ruler visible, timestamp, copies left in the lockbox for the nurse. Call tree 0. 6 numbers on a card taped in teacher desks and church offices. Nurse, counselor, deputy, city clerk, library desk, print shop. Any adult could start the string. That's part 5. Not feeling, just fixtures. Forms, stamps, cameras, allies, and a clear lane from a scrap of paper to a line in a docket. We didn't win arguments. We won timestamps. Next part, we took it beyond the county, hit 2 border towns, and dealt with 1 outfit that tried to outmaneuver us with shell names and traveling tents. Turks Part 6, Cross-County Net, Road Tents and Shell Names, 1977-1979. We pushed past county lines. First target, a traveling outfit calling itself Family Steps. Real name shifted weekly. Family Stairs, Family Ladder, Family Line, same folding tent, same pamphlet stack, same pitch. Closed session character nights. They leapfrogged fares from Willow Bend to Copper Trace and set up after dusk. I built a road net. Nodes. Copper Trace Library. Librarian Jean Hill. 2 print shops. Ruthie in Pecan Ridge. Alma's cousin, Boyd in Copper Trace. 3 clinics. Nurse Lena here. Nurse Petra at Barrel Creek. Nurse Howard in Copper Trace. Law, Deputy Lyle plus Sergeant Inez McCall from the Highway Patrol. We added a travel card, a postcard you could mail from any town with 4 blanks. Where, when, who spoke, what words quoted. Pre-addressed to our P.O. box in Amarillo. Stamp already on it. Intel came from a fry cook in Copper Trace, Shauna Perez. She saw a man in a tan blazer leave a stack of glossy flyers at the diner. Virtue Night, no phones, no questions. 3 hits on the buzzword card. She photographed the stack with the wall clock behind it and slid 1 flyer into a napkin sleeve. Time, 3:27 p.m. We moved. 4:10 p.m. Boyd printed 2 sets of our packets, permit forms, open door policy, mandatory reporter clause. 5:02 p.m. Sergeant. McCall called the fair board chair, Earl Tanney, and read him the lease clause. Any youth-focused instruction must be visible from the entrance. 6:40 p.m. I arrived with Nora and Dean. We walked the grounds buying lemonade like regulars and counted attendance. The tan blazer, name tag Mr. Carey, hauled a projector into the back of the tent. At 7:00 I stepped through the flap before they closed it. Permit check. He tried to wave me off. I held the form with Earl's signature line blank and the clause highlighted. Open door or shut down. Your choice. He stalled, told a volunteer to fetch Pastor Al. We documented names off their badges and stamped times every 2 minutes. They chose half-open flaps and declared it a public safety measure. Good. Nora and Lena split and sat on opposite sides, notebooks out. The talk turned to obedience tracks and quiet rooms. We recorded the slide titles verbatim. No confrontations, no speeches. At 8:16, when he hinted at private follow-ups, I raised my hand. Private equals closed. Illegal under this lease. Earl cut the mic. Tent emptied with nothing but grumbles. They fled to the next town, Mesa Fork. We were already there by mail. 3 travel cards hit our box with the new alias Family Steps USA. We phoned Mesa Fork's clerk, faxed the lease clause, and overnighted packets. When the tent appeared, the sheriff there taped an open entrance required sign to the flap before the first chair was filled. No closed session, no harvest. The outfit shifted tactics. Shell registrations. Stepwise Ministries LLC filed in Lubbock, then North River Outreach in Abilene. We hardened filings. Ruthie drafted a 1-page civic screen adopted by 3 city clerks. If the registrant rents a hall after 6 p.m. and lists youth, require the open door acknowledgement. If the flyer contains 2 or more flagged terms, attach the liability sheet at pickup. If the applicant refuses the acknowledgement, note refusal on the lease face and notify fire code. That paper trail traveled with them like a tail. Big Swing came March 78. A tent landed at Blue Arroyo, on the county line. They tried a men-only guardianship clinic, then moved minors inside in pairs. Sergeant McCall had anticipated the pivot. She brought the fire marshal, Luis Espina, who didn't care about their spin, only exits and occupancy. Luis measured the aisle width, checked the chained side flap, and wrote a red tag. Egress blocked. Event suspended. While they argued about theology, he counted chair rows and photographed the chain with a tape measure in frame. The DA loved those photos more than any sermon notes. We built a field kit for marshals. Ruler, chalk, bright tags, instant camera, 3 copy violation slips. They started ending meetings with numbers, not opinions. We also cut off logistics. Their copier van ran everything: forms, sign-in sheets, covenants. Marcus's friend at West Panhandle Rentals tipped us when the van came in for a paper restock under the name Carey Christian Services. The rental manager added a clause. Must retain print logs by job title and time. When subpoenas came later, we had job tickets with timestamps and operator initials. The records told the story without one witness raising a voice. By winter '78, they tested border towns, Pinedale, Oklahoma line, and Dry Mesa, New Mexico line. We planted the same bones: printers, librarians, nurses, one deputy, one fire official. At Pinedale, the librarian put our one photo room behind the stacks. At Dry Mesa, the copy shop taped the buzzword card at eye level. The tent arrived. The town was pre-wired. Blowback, 2 tries. A lawyer sent me a stiff letter calling our buzzword card defamation by implication. I mailed back a single page. The liability sheet, 3 leases with their signatures, and photos of the open entrance signs they'd agreed to. Nothing further. Second, 3 men with clipboards visited Ruthie to inspect her presses. She called the card's last number. Sergeant McCall, who drove over, checked their IDs, none, and walked them out. We added a peephole camera over Ruthie's door and a panic buzzer wired to the clerk's desk. Final move. May '79. Earl Taney, who had signed tent leases for years, decided to make the rule permanent. The Fair Board adopted the public access standard county-wide. Any youth meeting held on public property must allow line of sight from the doorway. One mandated reporter must be named on the permit. Photo and date of that person posted at the entrance, and emergency egress clear per code. Fine set, repeat bans allowed. Family steps folded that summer. The tan blazer reappeared under another brand 2 states over, but our boxes, travel cards, lease copies, print logs traveled faster than their tent. That closes the road phase. Next, Part 7. We take the system out of clipboards and into Silicon, dot matrix logs, time clocks, and a small-town bulletin board that turned into a regional file line. Serve Part 7, Ledger, Locket, and the algorithm. 1980s to now. I'll finish clean. What we built, what held, where it goes after me. Once Browning Hall steadied, I turned from patch jobs to structure. Not speeches, systems. First, the red binder. 1 tab per county, 1 per contact. Each page, name, role, safe number, what they take, photos, affidavits, anonymous tips, and what to avoid. Voicemail, Facebook, gossip. Updates in pencil only. When someone retires, I draw a slash and add a handoff arrow. That binder outlived 3 sheriffs and 2 DAs. Second, the 2-lock box. In our shop office, I bolted a steel cash drawer to a joist. Slot for envelopes. Inside, copies of every intake I handled. No originals, never the only copy. If I get flattened by a feed truck, Dean opens the drawer and hands the stack to Nora. Chain of custody survives the driver. Third, the county loop. I mapped the outfits that moved under new names: traveling family modesty nights, revival tents, home discipline circles. Same props, same script. When they popped up in Dusty Fork, I could guarantee they'd be in Copper Trace 2 Saturdays later. We had a relay. Librarian in Willow Bend faxed flyers. Nurse in Copper Trace logged plate numbers. Clerk in Grayson filed the permits in a folder stamped hold. If one door shut, the next one stuck. The pushbacks came. A pastor tried to file an injunction. A printer received a cease and desist with big city letterhead. A county board cut my library room for budget. We answered with paperwork, not shouting. I learned to write 3 kinds of letters. Notice of retention. We keep copies. Public records request. clock starts now, and conflict disclosure. Name who signed which permit. Paper beats thunder. In 91, a case cracked because a janitor at a middle school saved a trash bag. He called me. I called Deputy Cook. Cook called a judge. In the bag, spiral notes labeled Obedience Game Plans. Prosecutor took one look and smiled tired. That'll do. Fines, closures, bans. Not fireworks, but gears moving. We set up small engines in quiet rooms. Shop nights at our place, tacos, coffee, a folding table. I showed teens how to timestamp photos, export phone logs, and burn CDs twice. One for a drawer, one for a friend. They laughed until it kept them from losing a wage claim. Red flags for copy desks at 2 print shops. Words that trip phones. Purity contract. Closed character session. Parental authority ceremony. If a flyer hits 3 flags, the clerk pauses the print and calls the city clerk. No drama, just procedure. A Grange Hall drill we called 4 doors. Door 1, safe adult, not in your house. Door 2, public building open after 5. Door 3, medical stop with a light on. Door 4, a number that answers. Kids practice naming their doors out loud. Talking makes muscle memory. We cleaned up home too. After Evan passed, I turned the carport into a square, bright room with a lock, a scanner, and a table that doesn't wobble. On the wall, 3 frames. Cole's crooked Ozark stencil, the judge's line, "These practices are violence," and a grainy photo of Mrs. Whitaker handing me that plain dress. I don't keep trophies. I keep instructions. The old house in Missouri finally sold to a young couple who wanted a goat and a garden. I mailed them a single sheet. Locations of the patched ceiling, the floorboard that lifts, the place we found the tin. Not ghosts, I wrote. History. Don't be afraid. Be alert. They sent back a Christmas card with a baby by a wood stove. That was enough. Family notes. Dean runs the trucks and the spreadsheets with the same calm Evan had. He hires steady, pays on Fridays, and keeps roadside kits packed like hospital trays. Nora's the nurse who checks pressure at the Grange. Yes, but she's also the best witness prep I've ever seen. Answer what they asked, then stop. My granddaughter June wears Darla's locket clipped to her backpack. She knows what it is, a reminder to document. We had a scare 3 summers back when a traveling outfit rented the school gym under a fake name. They set up a ring of chairs and a modesty banner. By supper, we'd run the loop. Permit copied, plates logged, fire code measured, neighbors alerted. I walked over with a metal tape, pointed to the blocked exit, and said one line the fire marshal taught me. This door stays clear. They argued scripture. I quoted ordinance. They folded the banner by dark. 2 winters ago, I boxed the red binder for transfer. Not retirement, distribution. 8 copies, county printed tabs, laminated checklists. We trained the next hands. A postal clerk, a tractor mechanic, a substitute teacher, a librarian who can fix a copier with a butter knife. No heroes, just a net. I'm not naive. Some men dodge process. Some counties stall. Some mothers freeze like mine did. I don't measure by headlines. I measure by forms filed, rooms left open, kids who know their 4 doors, and one more printer that calls before it inks. If you want a last clean pass, here it is. No flourishes. Keep a ledger. Names, roles, phone numbers that answer. Update in pencil. Store copies in 2 places you don't sleep. Label times. Learn your local codes. Fire exits, occupancy, permit rules. They're neutral tools. Use them. Build a loop across towns. Librarian, nurse, clerk, mechanic. Trade flyers, not secrets. When outfits rebrand, track the props, not the names. Tents don't lie. Never be the only witness. Never be the only holder of the only paper. When they shout doctrine, answer with dates. When they threaten, answer with copies. Then go home and make supper. I'm Martha Green, browning on the invoices of Pecan Ridge. My garden's 2 rows of peppers, 3 tomatoes, and a stubborn rosemary bush that ignores cold fronts. The singer still hums. The shop clock still chimes the hour. When folks ask how I overcame, I don't deliver feelings. I list steps, opened a window, climbed to the crates, switched names, kept a record, handed it up, kept moving. If you need an ending, take mine and strip the paint. Open the window. Reach the truck. Use a clean name. Log the facts. Pass the packet. Hold the door. Run it on your roads, with your people, under your sky.